So here we are at TikTok Stadium on a wonderful sunny Sydney afternoon. And I'm here at Microsoft World AI Tour. And we heard this morning from Satya Nadella. We were lucky enough for him to travel here to Australia, CEO of Microsoft, kicking off the whole AI World Tour this morning. And it really felt like one of those moments, and he made the point himself where everything old has become new again. He talked about his first trip to Australia 35 years ago, where he was talking about Visual Basic embedded in Excel, and now we're talking about agentic AI agents embedded within Excel in general. And what really landed for me this morning wasn't necessarily the product demos, although they were very interesting. The co-work demo particularly I found very interesting. It was more the sense that Australia is genuinely stepping into its own AI frontier. And he's talked about the reason that the frontier keeps moving, but every so often it circles back and rewrites the basics of how we work. We have the same instincts, but in a completely different era and different approach and embracement of technology in many ways. And a big through line, I think, at the end of the day, when we think about everything I took away, was we need to focus on outcomes. We've been talking about this for a long time now at Adapt in many roundtables that I've been hosting as well. It needs to be outcomes first, implementation second. Not features, not hype, but outcomes. So how we show up for customers, how we innovate, how we bend the curve forward in many ways. And that means shifting our mindsets. This isn't always a technology conversation. We need to really create cultures of curiosity, enable our people to remain curious and embrace curiosity to accelerate productivity and innovation in general. And he anchored everything he spoke about this morning on two key things, and that was intelligence and trust. If we get those right, we can create a virtuous cycle. Get them wrong, and we accelerate a potentially vicious cycle. Then he moved into agents, and this is where things really started to get real, I think, for the audience in general, as I saw many people sit up and pay great attention. He, of course, reinforced that Copilot isn't a chatbot anymore. It's more of a cognitive loop. It can initiate tasks, it can keep momentum, and it can operate at a pace of change that really drives a different approach and nature of work. And he highlighted that 17 of the ASX top 20 companies are already using Copilot across the board. He laid out the agent platform, which is around harness, agents, context, and models, all wrapped in security and compliance. And he talked about the rise of hosted agents. And what he means by that is that all software is becoming agentic, which means every organization is about to be managing hundreds of agents, not a handful. And that's where things like announced Agent 365 comes in, which is ultimately a control plane to keep all of this governed and secure. So we need agents to manage our agents at the end of the day. And the Australian relevance, I think, is immediate and was made very clear as we heard examples from EMO, the energy regulator, CommBank, University of Sydney, and indeed Cricket Australia, all building agentic systems on top of decades of data. In the case of Cricket Australia, going right back to 1896. Now, of course, none of this works without infrastructure. And Microsoft has been quite vocal over the years in terms of its investment, particularly in Australia. And he announced this morning that by 2029, Microsoft will invest some $25 billion in infrastructure, data centers, and indeed software systems and processes. On security, he made it clear, and I've made the point many times, that Microsoft quite often is its own biggest sort of gatekeeper in terms of knowledge around security. But he spoke how AI has to really lift our national resilience, not hold it back. So we heard about an extended partnership with ASD, the Australian Signals Directorate, and how it's all about strengthening Australia's cyber shield collectively. So then the skills piece, of course we can talk all as much as we like about AI and technology and capabilities, but we've got to uplift our people. And so apparently by 2028, Microsoft plans to train 3 million Australians in the skills they need to work effectively with AI, with a big focus on those disadvantaged and those who have less opportunities than others. And he closed with a mission to empower every person and every organisation in Australia to achieve more. And honestly, today made it clear the frontier is here and it's here now. Everything old is new again. Now it's on to us to build the capability and momentum to actually cross it. And that's exactly where three leaders in a follow-up panel who followed him brought the conversation home. We heard from Jane Livesey, who's the Managing Director for Microsoft Australia and New Zealand, and she grounded the whole thing in trust and safety. She talked about every sector really wanting to adopt AI and do it safely and effectively. She framed her moment or her conversation around frontier transformation. A lot of talking around frontiers today. Not just a shared, not just a tech shift, but ultimately a shared opportunity for all of us collectively. But to make sure that AI is safe, inclusive, and beneficial for all Australians, and Australians understand what those benefits can be. We then heard from Vicky Brady, CEO of Telstra, and she took it straight into operational reality. And she said for Telstra to stay a leading telco, AI has to be implemented programmatically, safely, effectively across every part of the organisation. But she also talked about the need to uplift the skills collectively within Telstra to really leverage those capabilities as effectively as possible and share the benefits collectively. Finally, Anthony Miller, CEO of Westpac Group, sort of sobered us all up a little bit, to be honest, when he talked about the sort of negative tone generally of Australia's public discourse right now. And he said that mindset, more than anything, is holding the country back as it strives to improve productivity and accelerate innovation. If we want AI to lift productivity and create real economic upside, he said we need to shift from pessimism to ambition. Innovation ultimately only delivers when it diffuses across society. And he used the analogy of electricity. If one person has electricity, that's fine for them, but until you diffuse it across the whole country and every citizen, the true benefits will never be fully realised from those sort of capabilities and technologies in general. So his message was a call to reset the mood of the country and back ourselves again. He said we have so many positive capabilities and so many opportunities within Australia, but we need to reset the national narrative to one of positivity and can do rather than pessimism and can't do.